What's up, people? Welcome or welcome back to Invest with T-Claus. My name is Tevi, and this is a channel dedicated to my investment journey, along with coverage on Tesla, NEO, Virgin Galactic, and ChargePoint. Come for the information, stay for the random clips. All right, so Q1 is officially over, and if nothing else, these last 3 months are a clear testament as to why active investing is not for the faint of hearts. If you're going to be managing your own portfolio, as I am, you need to have the right mindset and a strong resolve to do so successfully. But before we get too far into the video, I wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who has hit that subscribe button to date, bringing the channel total to 49 subscribers. Thank you for the support. Y'all are the real MVP. In today's video, I'll discuss how the portfolio is actually doing now that Q1 is over, and I'll hit on the performance gain or loss in dollars and cents pretty much right away for those of you primarily interested in that. And for everyone else, we'll take things a step further afterwards. So the video will be structured into 3 parts. Part number 1, again, will be focused on the performance, and that's going to be expressed in not just percentages, but also dollars and cents for the first time. Part number 2 will focus on the investment thesis and my goals moving forward. This will actually be the first time that I discuss those openly on the channel. And part number 3 will just be announcements, general announcements for the channel, and some potential changes coming our way. So with that said, if you're interested in hearing everything all the way through, stick around and let's get into it. All right, so jumping in right away, I'll bring up the screen recording here and let's walk through how we've done over the last 3 months. So you can see that there's still movement going on the weekend, and that's again because crypto never sleeps. And as it currently stands, we're down by 0.60%, which is the equivalent of $459 and some change. If we go out to the 1 week view, things look a little bit better at this point. We're up by 17.92%, or the equivalent of $11,636 and some change. Obviously, things are still moving around. If we go out to the 1 month view, we're up by 7.25%, and you can see how much of a roller coaster it's been. And that's the equivalent of $5,145 and some change. And out to the 3 month view, which is the entire quarter, and here we're up by 10.42%, or the equivalent of $7,212 approximately, again, as the screen moves around. So it's definitely been a wild ride. So as it stands, the account is up by 10.40% year to date. And that in itself doesn't really tell you anything except that, well, I'm not losing money, which is cool, but how does that compare to the broader market? And again, remember that the whole point of me doing this on my own, not hiring somebody or simply putting money into an ETF, is because I believe that there's enough information out there that if I put in the time and effort, I can actually outperform the market. And so to help with the comparison, we'll look at the 3 major indices, the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the S&P 500, and see how those are performing by comparison year to date. So starting with the NASDAQ, that's up about 4% year to date. The S&P 500 is up about 7% year to date. And the Dow Jones, which is seeing the most of the rotation benefits right now, is up by 8% year to date. So as it stands, I would say that yes, I am actually outperforming the market. But the interesting thing here, and I'll bring it back onto the screen, you can see that my current account value, again, full transparency here, is worth 76,400 and some change. And it keeps moving around because, again, crypto never sleeps. But at the very bottom here on March 8th, which is when we hit rock bottom, the account was only worth 59,500 or so dollars. If we go back up to right before the sector rotation kicked into high gear, you can see that the account at the time was worth $110,138 for a gain at that point of $40,818, or the equivalent of 58%, almost 59%. So despite the fact that it's much lower now, what's really cool about that is that was before I actually doubled up on my NEO position and doubled up just about on my Tesla position. So yes, these rotations can be brutal, especially when you compare where I was compared to where I am now. But I want to remind everybody watching that I was further down, right? And the reason why it's coming back up now is because I stuck with it and added when it mattered the most. But what has me excited about this whole thing is that rotations can only weigh you down so much, right? It's extra weight that you're carrying around while, money's flowing away from your winning stocks. And again, Tesla, NEO, ChargePoint, Virgin Galactic, in my mind, all winners. And so eventually the rotation will come full circle. And when that happens, the acceleration that the portfolio will experience will look and feel something like this. That's Yuji from Jujutsu Kaisen, and that acceleration, simply epic. Came out of nowhere, shocked everybody, and before you knew it, he was gone. And that's exactly what I expected of the account. Why? Because again, Tesla, Neo, Virgin Galactic, and ChargePoint have a bright future ahead of them. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Now, to some, the account value and the returns are gonna look good. Others will take a look and go, meh, not that impressive, actually have more in my account. And that's fine if you do. It's all relative, right? Because we have different starting points and we'll have different ending points. The whole point of the channel is to document my investment journey as a means to, one, achieve financial freedom for myself and my family, and two, hopefully motivate others to show that even if you're starting with next to zero, you can still achieve financial freedom and wealth by following 7 basic principles that I discuss in my video here. And no, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'll link the video. If you want to see me completely uncomfortable on camera, but still providing some good information, go take a look. I'll link it in the description below as well. The last thing that I'll mention here before we move on to part 2 of the video is that you don't need a massive amount of capital to get started. I actually made my first deposit worth $600 into this account last year, May 8th, 2020. And since then, I've contributed on a weekly basis, as well as taken advantage of some of my bonuses and tax returns. All that adds up to the $32,000 that you're now, and some change that you're now seeing on the screen, for a total return on the account of 132%, or $43,504. And again, this is at the current value. That was much higher before, but this is where we are now. So now let's get into part 2 of the video, where we'll talk through my investment thesis and ultimately the goals that I'm trying to achieve. All right, so before we get into my goal and how I plan to get there, let's make it very clear that this is not one of those copy and paste moments, right? I'm not a financial advisor. This is not meant to be financial advice. More than likely, our situations are different, and the risk that I'm willing to take is going to be maybe different from yours. So make sure you do your own research before you go and invest your money. All right, so with that out of the way, let's get into how do we get there. So first of all, when it comes to investing, I think you have to have a clear time horizon as well as a clear goal in mind. And for me specifically, my goal is to reach a $1 million portfolio value by 2025. And no, I don't have $700,000 laying around that I plan to dump into the stock market between now and then ultimately return maybe like 100% and call it good. That's not how I'm going to get there. By my estimate, I will likely invest around 100K, give or take a few thousands, depending on how my short-term and mid-term investments do, right? The goal is to, again, use those as additional fuel to grow the account. So now that we have a clear goal in mind, let's talk about how I get there. The how is simply this. The 4 cornerstone stocks in my portfolio were selected specifically to achieve this goal. And when you think about where I expect them to be, so Neo, Tesla, Virgin Galactic, and ChargePoint in 2025, I've then selected my share counts accordingly. So if we talk Neo, I have a minimum requirement of 1,000 shares for Neo with a price target of $300 by 2025. And if I can achieve that 1,000 share count early enough, then it's going to be some pretty massive returns between now and then. Second on the list is Tesla. I have a minimum share count of 100 shares for Tesla, and I expect that by 2025, 1 share of Tesla will be worth $3,000. If we talk Virgin Galactic, I have a minimum share count of 1,000 with a price target of 150 by 2025. And last but not least, ChargePoint, I have a minimum share count of 1,000 with a price target of 250 by 2025. For each one of these companies, I've made the case for why I believe they will reach that number by 2025, and I'll link the videos in the description below. You can go and watch those. And let me know in the comments if you believe that this is too optimistic or unrealistic. I'm pretty convinced that we'll get there, but I'm curious to know what you guys think. But if you don't want to take the time and watch all those videos, let me summarize why I believe that these 4 companies have a lot of growth ahead of them. So starting with Tesla, I think that one's pretty obvious. I think they're going to become the largest company in the world by market cap. And if you consider that the autonomous side of the business, as well as the car side of the business, and the energy are growing at a staggering rate right now, it won't be long before they dominate. And if you need further proof, ask yourself 2 things. Why would Apple, which is currently one of the largest, if not the largest company in the world, chose Tesla Energy in their quest to achieve a greener future. And when most automakers fell short of delivering on expectation this quarter due to the chip shortage that's going around the world right now, Tesla was the only manufacturer to crush expectations and by a significant margin, right? So that right there says something. Next, we have NIO, and out of all the other Chinese EV makers, they have the best tech. And I've said this before, but in my mind, it's going to be Tesla in that #1 spot for all EVs, and NIO is going to take that #2 spot. Everybody else will pretty much fight over spot #3 and beyond. And on top of that, when everybody else was falling victim again to the chip shortage that impacted pretty much every other automakers, only two stood above the crowd. That was Tesla by crushing expectations, and NIO by coming on target when it came to expectations. ChargePoint, the largest EV charging network in the US, quickly expanding in Europe, and with all these EVs hitting the road over the next 5 years, they're going to need charging. So that's going to be some nice tailwind for ChargePoint, as well as the Biden infrastructure plan that's set to hit over the next few months here. So many years of growth ahead of them. Virgin Galactic, well, we're at the dawn of a new space age, and they just released their new Spaceship 3, and I'll link the video in the description below. But they're not just selling you the dream of going to outer space, they're also poised to revolutionize the point-to-point travel with hypersonic flight. So with these four, until I've reached my desired share count, I have no plans to sell any shares whatsoever. And even when I do, I'm going to be holding for at least the next 5 years. That's the plan. And yes, I expect there will be some volatility along the way, and frankly, I hope that there is. Because every time that we see those nice pullbacks, that's a major opportunity for me to add on to my positions and get to where I need to be. So where am I on a journey here in relation to the desired shared count? Well, you can see on the screen here that I've actually reached the goal for NIO. I have 1,001 shares. Tesla, I'm currently sitting at 46, but that's a little deceiving. I've actually reached that goal because my shares are split between this account and my E-Trade account. But the reality is that I still want to get this particular account to 100 shares because, again, this is what I share with you guys, and I'm not necessarily counting what's over in E-Trade. So that's just a bonus there. Virgin Galactic, I'm currently sitting at 400 shares, and ChargePoint, I'm at 325 shares at the moment. One of the most common questions that I get when it comes to these positions, especially since they've run up so much since I bought in, is why don't I take profit? Well, there's two reasons actually. Reason number one is why would I introduce unnecessary risk, right? Trying to time the market with selling high and then coming back low. One of my 7 principles that I follow is don't try to time the market. This is about the time horizon. I'm looking at 5 years out. So my thesis is accumulating as many shares as I can over the next 5 years to get to my $1 million. So no point in selling. Reason number two is because every time that you sell shares for a capital gain, you're liable to pay taxes. And so if it's a short-term gain, so a year or less, that means that you're going to be paying as much as you do in income taxes. And I don't know about you, but I don't feel like sharing my gains with the government. Not that I don't believe in paying taxes, but I don't want to pay unnecessary taxes. Now, there's ways around that, and maybe I'll make a video in the future about how to balance it out appropriately. But right now, it's not needed, and therefore, I don't plan to sell any shares between now and 2025 of these 4 particular stocks. So as we move forward, I'll continue to cover how each one of these companies are doing, what I see are they executing to plan, and whether or not my investment thesis is changing. So with that in mind, here's my forward guidance for the account. I expect that by year end, the account will be worth somewhere around $150,000, so nearly double where it is now. And if you think that's ambitious and I may or may not make it, that's the cool thing about YouTube, right? You can always come back and see old videos and see how well people are doing on their projections and where they're going. But there's only one way that you get to find out if I've made it, is if you ring that notification bell and hit the subscribe button so that you're notified when the Q4 2021 video drops and I go through the portfolio performance at that time. All right, so the last few things to mention here before we wrap up for today is that number one, the description below has my referral links to Tesla as well as Robinhood. So if you're interested in getting some free stocks, use my referral link to Robinhood. And if you're in the market for a Tesla and want some free supercharger miles, feel free to use my Tesla referral link. And number two, I've now included a link to my Twitter account in the description below as well. So if you're interested in getting the news a little bit more real time for the relevant articles that pertain to the channel or crypto in general, that's where you can find that information. Well, this will be it for today's video. It took us about 3 months to get to, call it 50 subscribers for the channel, and definitely interested to see if we can match that same performance, that same pace, by adding another 50 subscribers or more by the time we reach our Q2 earning call for the account. So keep liking, keep sharing, and subscribe. And remember to ring that notification bell so that you don't miss any future content. With that said, stay humble, hustle hard, and I'll see you in the next one.